Sport Fishing on the Fly is brought to you by Togen's Fly Shop, Maui Jim Sunglasses, and Hardy Rods and Reels.
G'day folks, welcome back to On the Bench. Well, it's October, which means up here in Canada it's hockey season and it's coho season. In a couple of weeks I'm going to be headed back to the Lower Mainland to hopefully fish for some coho myself. Last year I designed a fly I call the West Coast Express. I named it after one of my all-time favorite hockey lines, Morrison, Naslund and Bertuzzi from the Vancouver Canucks. This fly was absolutely deadly last year. One day in particular I took it in one of the rivers and I nailed 8 salmon and 10 casts with it, both coho and chum. The colors are very similar to Kelsey's Hope, which is a well-known successful coho pattern here in BC. So make sure you have these materials handy before you tie the fly. For a hook I'm using a GamaKatsu. It's a size 8 from their saltwater series. These are 3 times strong hooks. For a bead I'm using a 1/8 brass bead in silver. For thread I'm going to be using classic waxed and 12/0 by Semperfli in the Cornflower color. Any blue, light blue color would work. You could even use white or gray. For the tail and the wing I'm going to be using Crystal Flash, and I've got it in green and blue. Both these kinds are by Semperfli. For the body I'm using flat Mirage Tinsel, or you could use like flat silver tinsel. I've done both flies. I'll show you both flies. And for the rib I'm using the Iridescent thread by Semperfli in green and blue, but you could also just use blue or green, like blue or green wire. And for the wing and the collar I'm using Marabou in blue, like a dark blue. So to start the fly off I've gone ahead and laid down a base layer of thread. And I've just taken about 6 strands of each of the blue and the green Crystal Flash and mixed them together. I'm just going to tie this in for a tail. I was going to mention in the materials part, if you're going to use a silver body for this fly, you can just use red thread. So I'm going to be coloring the collar of this red. I'm just going to take, oh, I missed one, a couple of turns underneath this flash, just so it doesn't wrap. It shouldn't anyways. And I'm just going to cut it off maybe about the length of the shank up to the bead, like not very long. Next I've taken a piece of the blue and the green iridescent thread. If you don't have this, like I said in the intro, you could use like green and blue wire. Microglint would make good rib. Semperfli also has something called micro metal in these colors. Or you could just use the Crystal Flash, a piece of the green or the blue Crystal Flash if you didn't have wire. I'm just going to tie these in. I got that tied in there. Now you can take your body material if you're using the flat silver tinsel or the Mirage. Be sure to tell me in the comments if you're a hockey fan, who your favorite team is. I might pick one of your teams and tie you up a team fly from the comments. Obviously mine is the Canucks and I'll be rooting for them this year. I'm not off to a very good start yet, but the season is still young. So I've just gone and tied all 3 materials in at once, and then just bring your thread forward again. Just got something on this side here I want to drop down. Here we go. Next I've just been taking a little bit of crazy glue. I've got the brushable crazy glue, a little super glue or something, Zap-A-Gap, and I'm just adding a couple dabs of that to the body just to help it not fall apart so fast. They chewed this one up pretty good last year. Oh, hang on, I'm just going to throw a half hitch in here quickly. And Just wind this up. Tie that off. We're good to throw another half hitch in here. Oh, or a whip finish. Now next I'm just going to take my blue and green and I'm going to slightly just twist them together so they stay side by side. And then you can just make some nice even ribs up the body. To the front. Tie that off. And snip that away. Now you can take your tail material, the green and blue flash. Just going to even these up again. And I'm just going to tie it in right on top. And I've been measuring it back just past the body, so maybe halfway down the tail. Now this part's completely optional. I've done flies with and without a wing, feather wing on them, and they both worked. So, you know, sometimes rivers like the Harrison and stuff, they like really slim flies. So you might not want to add a wing to it. I believe this color of Marabou is from Nature Spirit. And I have been adding just a tiny amount, so it's not a very thick wing. Just like that. Get in there. I'm just going to separate these, get in there nice and close and snip those away without snipping the wing off. And then next you can just take a couple pieces of the Marabou. I'm just going to take some of this leftover that I have from the wing. And you can just spin it right onto your thread like dubbing. The fewer strands you have, the easier it is to do that with. If you got too much, you can pull it off, like I did. Just like that. Check. And now you can leave the collar, the thread color blue or whatever color you're using. I have been coloring it red, even though it's not a Canuck color. Sorry, Canucks. I do like a red collar on a lot of my Coho flies. Red's a color that they just are really drawn to. And I believe I used some flies with and without a red collar last year. It probably didn't matter much. It's just a personal preference thing. So you don't have to do it red. You can leave it, you know, if you have blue thread or green thread or whatever, that's fine. I'm just going to take a couple of whip finishes. You could add super glue or head cement to the thread as well at this point. Usually I just take the crazy glue and add just a little bit to the thread there, and then it'll soak into the other whips. Just do one more. Oh, that's good. Go ahead and snip away your thread. And that's it. My West Coast Express Coho fly also works for Chum very well. Thanks for joining me on this edition of On the Bench. Take care, everyone. Conserve the waters and tight lines.